Boom, coming in hot, Chinchy. How we doing today, cuz?
Doing good, man. We got a big winter storm coming here. Hasn't snowed on Long Island yet this year, but apparently it's over.
It snowed here this morning. We were supposed to have this winter advisory in effect. It snowed for like 2 hours, and I was like, oh man, it's gonna be nasty. And then it started raining, and it's all gone.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You ever notice that it's like kind of warm when it's snowing, and it's colder when it stops?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense to me, but that's what I do. Anyway, so here we go. We talked, we previewed, we made our pitches for guys for the Hall of Fame yesterday. The deal is done. We got to start with the positives, right? You're happy for Scott Rolen. Big time, right?
Oh. Dude, I'm super happy. Hang on a second here.
Yeah.
I'm super happy for Scott Rolen, bro. I mean, he's well deserving to get in the Hall of Fame. Like I said, I played against this guy my whole career and watched his career and just how good he was, man. Defensively, he's one of the best ever. You know, I mean, and I think, what is it? He's one of only, in the last 40 years, he's only the second third baseman to get in besides Chipper Jones. For whatever reason, there's not a ton of third basemen in Cooperstown. It's tough to get in there. That position is judged highly.
Yeah.
But when you go back and look at Rolen's, numbers, 8 Gold Gloves, just behind Arenado, Mike Schmidt, and Brooks Robinson. And I think the one thing, and even Rolen in the interview last night was great. He was talking about, hey, listen, I pride myself in my defense because I knew if I didn't do something offensively, night in and night out, I could do something defensively that would help the team win. He also said another thing, Chinch, that I love, and I think this is so true for anybody that's a baseball fan out there, anyone that has kids that play baseball. He said, when you watch Scott Rolen play, how hard he played the game, he said he took pride in his base running because base running shows your character. Base running shows who you are. Base running shows how much you care, your integrity. I just thought that was great because I think that's so true. I remember Dave Collins saying who was our base running coach when I was with the Reds, one of my first years there, you got everybody together. I said, if you don't have a 4-second sprint down the line every time you hit, take the uniform off. And when you watch Scott Rolen play, man, this guy was hard on the field, hard off the field, sprinting down to first every time, scoring from first on a double in the gap, turning singles into doubles, played the game hard, played the game right. So, whenever you watch Scott Rolen play, you go, man, I'd pay to bring my sons to say, son, that's how you play the game right there. Just watch Scott Rolen and how he plays the game. And I think people appreciated that. I think the voters appreciated that too.
I agree. Somebody made a point. Shoot, I apologize for not remember who it was last night, but it was a really cool point saying, look at the managers Scott Rolen played for, like Tito, Cito, maybe? Yes, I don't remember. They listed the names.
Tony La Russa.
They listed all the names of the managers Scott Rolen played for, and they're all some of the best managers in history. And what does that say about Scott Rolen? I want Scott Rolen on my team if I'm going to try to win a championship.
I think he played for Dusty
yeah,
Baker.
I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me, but yes.
Yeah, I think it's Tito, Tony La Russa. I don't think Cito. I think it was John Gibbons he played for in Toronto.
Maybe. Yeah.
But he definitely played for Dusty in Cincinnati. So those are some pretty good. Those are some legendary coaches.
Yeah, exactly. And the other cool thing.
And Larry Boa.
Oh, and Larry Boa, that's who it was. The other cool thing I heard about was he gets to the Phillies and he's learning from guys who played with Mike Schmidt. That's the other thing. The one last thing I'll say about him is he was hyped. He was almost, we didn't have all the TV and everything that we have now, but I remember when Rolen was coming up, that was kind of close to when Bryce Harper was coming up. And I always think it's an amazing thing when somebody can be that hyped and still perform and still get to forget about just being a good player. J.D. Drew was supposed to be, the next Mickey Mantle. He had a really good career. When these guys can come up hyped, you're 21 years old, you're going to be the face of our franchise, and then you fast forward and that person's a Hall of Famer. It says something, first of all, about the character of the person, I think, because that means you're not resting on your laurels and having, everybody pat you on the back for being so good. You got to put in the work. And he put in the work, and he's a Hall of Famer, and he's very well deserving, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, dude. He delivered. You're right. It was a Rookie of the Year in '97. And just, I played against him, obviously, and he put up big numbers in the World Series. He was 8 for 19, hit over 400, a couple home runs, or a home run, drove in 5 runs, scored 5, whatever. He was a big part of that 2006, Cardinal team that ended up winning the whole thing. So, well deserved, Scott. Congratulations, brother, and incredible.
Yeah, there you go. All right,
Great
so now
career.
let's dig in what I'm kind of annoyed with here. Helton doesn't get in, but everybody's like, "Oh, well, he's in good shape. He's going to get in next year." And we were talking about this before we come out. I get so annoyed where it's like, all of a sudden, within 1 year, Todd Helton is 20% better of a baseball player than he was. He hasn't played. Nothing's happened. Nothing's changed.
Right.
And I know it. We have good friends who do this, and they take it. A lot of them take it very seriously. Some of these writers, but it's just like, I don't care that, like, oh, you can only put 10. You can't do this. I'm going to put this guy on and not put that guy on. I technically understand it, but I don't respect it as much because Todd Helton didn't get any better. He hasn't played a game in 5 years. But all of a sudden, he's again, 15% better. But hoping that he gets in next year, right? What's your take on him?
He was only 11 votes shy, dude.
I know.
He was
He's
11 votes shy of getting in. I mean, listen, look at the numbers. The numbers don't lie. Even his road splits, are better than some of the best players that are in Cooperstown. So, Todd Helton's Hall of Famer. He's going to get in next year. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you're 11 votes shy. He's trending upward. I'm glad the voters are, what they say? His first year, he got,
I believe,
29.2 in 2020. Mm-hmm. He's been trending upwards. He bumped 20% this year.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
That is a lot.
52 to 20.
Yeah.
But you're right, Chinch. This is why it's the best Hall of Fame. It's the toughest Hall of Fame to get in because, there's people are really breaking it down. Look at the numbers. I think the new voters, some of the new guys that are starting to get a vote, are bringing in that new school mentality of the WAR and the OPS plus and the WRC and all these different numbers that are factoring in. I think that's starting to make some of these guys look way more appealing than just maybe an old school guy that might say, well, the Coors Field effect.
Yeah, whatever. Right.
Like,
without doing the homework on it. I agree with that.
Yeah. So I think that he's sitting good. I think the other guy, Billy Wagner, too. Mm-hmm. What is he at? 68.1.
Yep.
He has 2 years remaining.
Yeah, he seems like he's gonna be a Hall of Famer within the next couple of years. I think. So wait, let's keep going down that list. Andrew Jones, 58.1%. Again, that's in this world. That's a pretty darn good number for him. I think
people are fun, dude. The problem with Andrew Jones was he played about 3 years too many. And at the end of his career, he was like I think 1 year he hit 190, 180.
Yeah.
They're like, man, this guy needs to hang it up. But dude, you forget about the first 15 years of his career. This guy was elite.
Dude, his 10-year window, like his main 10-year window, you put up against offensive players, not just defensive players.
Yeah.
Like he was as good and consistent a hitter as anybody in baseball history, I think.
And a lot of times the voters will say, hey, over a 10-year period, were you one of the best players in the game? Yeah. He was top 5 in the game. He changed the game in center field.
Yeah.
And like we talked about yesterday, when Smoltz, Glavine, and Maddox all mention you in their Hall of Fame speech, why didn't they mention all the guys?
Great point.
You mentioned Andrew Jones because the guy covered a continent out there. He covered right center, left center. He covered in, he covered back. It was incredible, dude. I played against this guy in the minor leagues all the way through my whole career. Never seen anything like it. No one will ever be as good as Andrew Jones in the outfield. I'm dead serious when I say that.
Yeah, great interview with D-Row yesterday. Did you watch it? So good.
Yeah,
D-Row's great.
So good.
It was such a good interview. And dude, you forget, you don't think about 19 years old hitting home runs and then hitting 2 in a World Series in one game at Yankee Stadium. Put that in a box. Nobody else can say that in the world, in history.
But you know what's so incredible about that, Chinch? 2.5 months earlier, he and I were we're in Rancho Cucamonga on the A-ball, Carolina League, high A-ball, all-star team. 2 months later, he's hitting tanks at Yankee Stadium. I remember I went back to Richmond because I had one semester to go. And I'm like, and all the people that are from, Atlanta, a lot of people go to Richmond. They're like, look at this guy, Andrew Jones. I'm like, I was just on the same team as this guy 2.5 months ago. He was in A-ball. Now he's hitting. He could be the MVP of the World Series, had they won it.
Yeah.
As a 19-year-old kid.
Holy moly. So cool. All right. Now, let's get into our next guy, Sheff. Let's go. 55% now. All right.
Well, that's
He's got
good,
1
right?
year left. What's that?
That he's over the 50%.
Yeah, that's it. It's a big thing. It's a big marker, and I do also think a lot of these guys like the Kens and the Heymans who are really devout into this kind of stuff. I don't remember who voted for whom, but those type of guys take into account like I don't want to be the guy to knock Gary Sheffield off the ballot next year. So that's why a lot of those numbers skew up. Like when you see somebody that close in there the last year, that's usually when they get over the top. Because like a writer doesn't want to go home and sleep on his pillow saying, I'm the guy that kept Gary Sheffield out of the Hall of Fame. So that's an interesting thought for next year. But bottom line is put him in the freaking Hall of Fame. Freaking best 3-4 hitter ever.
Gary Sheffield's a Hall of Famer in my book, man. I played with him. I'm so fortunate, bro. When I look back at my career, dude, I played with Ken Griffey Jr. for 6 years, Barry Larkin for 8 years. I'm going down the Cooperstown guys, but then I go to Boston and I get a chance to play with David Ortiz and Manny Ramirez and just some of the great players, that Dustin Pedroia, some of the best players that have ever played the game. Uke, Mikey Lowe, all those guys. And then in Detroit, I get to play for Jim Leland and these guys, and I got to play with Gary Sheffield in Detroit in that 2007 season. Man, Hall of Famers when you see them. When you're playing against these guys, when you're hitting in their groups and during batting practice, you see how they go about their business. Listen, man, back in 2000, I think it was 2003, when he was with the Atlanta Braves, and when we had Sheff on here, he talked about it. It was the hardest ball I've ever seen hit. It wasn't even a homer. He hit a line drive to left field. It freaking ricocheted off Adam Dunn's shoulder. It was a bullet, dude. He just waggles it, wham! Hits it. It looked like Dunner was playing it in at third. Yeah. It hit so hard, it skimmed off the ground, hit Dunner in the shoulder, like ricocheted off his shoulder. We were busting Dunner's chops, like, dude, and Dunner's like, I didn't even see it. I was playing in left field, and I said, that's how hard Gary Sheffield hit the ball. As consistent as they come, and you were saying it yesterday, Chinch, it wasn't like he went from 30 to 70 homers. If he had to have a 33 homer year, then a 43 homer year, but it was somewhere between 20 to 40 homers his whole career. Look at his body. It never changed. Because people are going to say, well, he was involved with the Bonds, steroid cream and stuff like that. Like, he goes to his grave saying, listen, dude, I went out to work out with Bonds. I got into this mess or whatever. At the end of the day, Gary Sheffield, for me, is a Hall of Famer.
Love it.
That's the bottom line. Let's get him in on his last year, next year. I like the fact that he's over 50% now, and let's see where it goes. But let's get him in.
Let's get him in, no question. All right. One other guy who trending well is Beltran in his first year, 46.5%. That's a hot number when you're just getting in there. The question I said to you before this, and I'd like you to say this on the air, your answer. Yeah. Or I'll just say this as a statement. You say fact or fiction. The steroid guys, what they did is worse than Carlos Beltran cheating. True or false?
I think the steroid guys was worse because they changed who they are as human beings. You became a different human. Carlos Beltran, to me, like, hey, listen, they just took it too far. They took that thing too far, and they got raked over the coals for it. At the end of the day, they got, and he did too. He was going to be the Mets manager. Next thing you know, he's out of baseball. He's in hiding. I think he was embarrassed by it. And I think it was just a learning lesson for all of us. But at the end of the day, that was like his last year in the big leagues, right? It was like, okay. Yeah. And also, everybody was involved. It wasn't just Carlos Beltran. Right. Everyone could have said no. Hey, dude, we're not doing that. But everyone said yes. Right. And the fact that everyone was involved kept it going. Yeah. So if everyone said no, Carlos Beltran's not even in the conversation because they're not doing that. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it is what it is. Was it good? No. Is it a black eye on baseball? Yeah. Is it a black eye on Beltran? Yeah. Should it keep him out of Cooperstown? No.
No, I agree.
You should not keep him out of Cooperstown.
No, that's good. And you made a good point. He served some penance for that, man. All this guy wanted to do for the last 15 years is become a manager, and he got it. Right. And hey, slap on your wrist for what you did. So yeah, I agree.
And look at Alex Cora, man. I mean, AC's one of my best friends, but he was involved. I mean, he was writing, he was involved just like Beltran was. He got a year off, suspended, and he's back as the Red Sox manager. And, we have a very forgiving society and forgiving culture. And Beltran paid his penance, and I'd like to see him in the dugout at some point, and I'd also like to see him in Cooperstown. Another guy I played against saying one of the best switch hitters of all time.
Ooh, yeah.
I was in his hitting group in 2004, bro, at the All-Star game in Houston. And it is when he just got traded to the Astros. I mean, remember, he took them to another level in 2004. It's incredible. Now, Chinch, there's something about even when you're in the big leagues, you're like, man, these guys are incredible. But there's something about if you turned your back to the cages or you closed your eyes, there's only a handful of guys that I played with that when you close your eyes, you go, that's a little louder. That's a lot louder than every other big leaguer. Carlos Beltran was one of those guys. I hit in his hitting group in 2004, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
That is loud coming off his bat.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
You know what else I kind of observed with him through the years? It's like I played with this. I played football in high school with this kid, Damian DeLeston. He was so great, and but like he always just to get like everybody be like, Damian, stop dogging it, because he never looked like anything he was doing was difficult. So he'd be one of the fastest guys on the team, but he didn't look like he was hustling. Like he didn't look like he was running hard. He could catch every pass, but it didn't look like he gave a shit. But he did. Beltran, like, made the game look so easy that I don't think he really got credit when he was playing for being, like you said, switch hitting, check. Great defense in the outfield, check. Steal some bases, check. Look, there was a year he had 41 and 42 stolen bases in back-to-back years. But did you ever think, wow, Carlos Beltran's real fast? Did you ever think, oh, Carlos Beltran's going to hit 3 home runs today? But guess what? He would steal bases, and he would hit 3 home runs in a game from both sides of the plate. Like, he just made it look so easy that we almost, I personally, like, think a lot of times when I was covering him, we took him for granted for how great of a talent he was.
I agree, dude. And I think, too, like, he also played in the era, steroid era where guys are hitting 50-plus home runs. So, like, certain guys would just get overlooked, because so many guys, his numbers were padded. I think Beltran at times was one of those guys, like, man, he's, but this guy was one of the best, dude. One of the best.
Yeah.
And like I said, man, it was a little louder than everybody else. And I always think, like, a lot of those guys in Cooperstown, Ken Griffey Jr.'s, the David Ortiz's, some of Gary Sheffield's, those are the guys that I played with, and I go, that's a little louder.
Mm-hmm. That's a great.
Everyone else.
I like that. I like that. All right, a couple guys who are not looking good here. Arod and Manny, and I'll add Vizquel to that. Vizquel's different. Different. We don't even really need to get into him as much, but Arod and Manny. Arod's got 35.7, Manny 33.2. They're not trending in a positive direction. It seems as if it does not look like they're getting in. It just doesn't look like they'll eventually get in.
I think one of the big things with A-Rod and Manny is they both got busted a couple times while the testing was going.
Right, big point.
Like you even go back to Gary Sheffield, there was no testing then. There was the hypothetical. Well, he used the cream with bonds. Okay, but there still was no testing.
Great point.
You know what I mean? So A-Rod got busted twice, and Manny got busted twice. I think while the steroid testing was in full effect.
Good point.
I think that's a huge black eye.
That's a great point.
That's kind of a middle finger to Major League Baseball to say, I don't give a crap. I'm going to do what I do because my ego is a little bigger than the game, and I ain't getting caught. And they did. And so I think that's a big black eye for them.
The other one is Arod sued Major League Baseball while he was still playing professional baseball. I know. It's funny. Everybody says, like, who said it last night? I think it was Joel Sherman made a nice point where he said, listen, you might not like the guy. And he's like, I don't really know anybody who knows more and loves baseball more than Arod. He's like, very few people know it, studied it, practiced it as hard as they could. He goes, but some things it's hard to get past. You sue, like that'd be like you going, I don't even know how to compare it. That'd be like suing your boss. You suing MLB Network and then going in for this to do IT tomorrow while you're suing them. That's exactly what that was.
I know.
And then they let him back in. His story is an all-timer. He's in his own Hall of Fame. His own hall of, like, craziness.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, he's still one of the faces of baseball. He's always on TV. He's doing everything. He's back. He's in. He's in. So I don't think
he's reinvented himself. Thanks, John Entz.
Yeah. There you go. Good point. Good point. All right. Now this one's a tough one. Jeff Kent, you're out. See you in however many years on the on the other ballot.
I think they got this one wrong. Jeff Kent, all-time leading home run hitter as a second baseman, was an MVP back when, he was with Bonds in San Fran. I played against him in Houston. This guy was as clutch as they come. Jeff Kent's a Hall of Famer. I'm sorry. He's one of the greatest second basemen of all time, especially one of the greatest offensive second basemen of all time. And in baseball nowadays, you got to be able to hit. He was an offensive second baseman when the second basemen weren't offensive. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, man, I hope they get this right at some point with the Veterans Committee and Kent gets elected in.
Well, can I add one thing? You were playing against him. I don't recall in my head ever watching a game, Jeff Kent's playing second base going, this guy can't do it. Or this guy's a liability. Don't hit it to Kent. I can't even recall someplace, maybe did he not turn double plays the same way other guys did? Who knows?
He turned, yeah.
But he had a great arm. He had a good arm, I think. Good enough arm.
Yeah.
Didn't he start as a short? Wasn't he a shortstop in high school?
I think it was a third baseman. I can't remember, but maybe with the Mets. Came up with the Mets, Indians. Yeah. But dude, you're right, Chinch. This guy made all the routine plays. He turned a nice double play. Maybe he didn't have the most of ranges. The most range of anybody, but listen, he made the routine plays, and he played hard, dude. This guy played hard. I think what hurts Kent, at the end of the day, he was kind of an ornery dude. He wasn't it wasn't so great to the media. Maybe he wasn't even so great to his teammates, and I think that hurts him a little bit, which is kind of BS because you want to judge his body of work, but at the end of the day, it's like Schilling. Look at Schilling. Schilling's not in the Hall of Fame just because. That last year he ran his mouth, about, just don't vote for me. It's like, you got to play the game of life too, dude. At some times you just got to be like, hey man, I'm just doing the best I can or whatever. You don't need to speak your mind all the time and you don't need to be brutally honest sometimes.
That's very true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. If you don't have something nice to say about somebody, maybe just don't say it at all. I think sometimes. Right. I still never forget that when him and Bonds got into that fight, that was just so cool. They're throwing each other around in a dugout. That was so crazy. Yeah, on the same team. Anyway. Incredible. Yeah, but, and by the way, the one last thing on him, it's shouldn't you get extra credit for playing a middle infield position? Because I can guarantee you right now there's got to be at least 30 dudes who were grazing in the outfield who are in the Hall of Fame right now. Think about that. I don't know. The whole defensive metrics thing kind of bummed me out, but I think you're right. I think you're right. I think it's more of he maybe didn't treat some of these reporters as well. And that's a vote. That's 2 votes. That's 3 votes. It's an election. It's an election. So you want guys to vote for you.
And like you said, Chinch, and if you can vote for 10 guys, and he's your 11th, 10 guy, you're going to go with the guy that treated you better. We're human beings.
Yes, you're true.
These
yes,
reporters
absolutely.
Look at the numbers. Okay, Kent's on the ballot of maybe he's number 11 or 10, and they're going to keep him at 11 because this guy at 10 is a better guy. Yeah. They think.
Hey, anybody out there looking for a job, when you get into the workforce, get really close with the scheduler. Exactly. Always be good with your scheduler because when you are, you get that little better shift. And they don't even, and like you said, sometimes it's just psychology of it. This guy's a good guy. I don't want to give him a Saturday work day. That guy's kind of an asshole. I'll see you Saturday and Sunday.
Some of the best advice my dad ever gave me was 2 things that people love. People love to be recognized, and the sweetest sound anyone can ever hear is their name. So recognize people and find out what their name is and say, hi, what's up, Rich? How's it going today, brother?
I love that.
And then you walk off, and the guy goes, man, that felt good. That felt good. Yeah. I'm going to remember that guy. And guess what? A lot of times when it comes into Cooperstown voting, that's the stuff that matters with these. I'm just sorry. We're human beings.
You're right. That reminds me, I am horrible with names. I shake somebody's hand for the first time, and it goes, poof. And then for a week, I'm just like, what's up, boss? Hey, chief. Hey,
what's up, chief?
Guy.
Big man.
Anyway, all right, yeah, we covered the gamut here, man. Good stuff.
brother.
I think we're gonna. I think next year's actually gonna be very, very exciting. And by the way, let's not forget, this is a pretty cool class with Rolen and Fred McGriff. Don't forget, it's gonna be there. So
that's
gonna be
that's
fun.
awesome.
That's gonna be fun. I can't wait to talk more about him.
And then the next year guys will be Joe Mauer's going to be up. Adrian Beltran should be up. That should be a first ballot, right? 3,000 hits, 500 homers. David Wright, your boy, and Chase Utley. That should be interesting. So there's some good names.
Questions. Yeah.
Good names coming up.
Yep.
Do you think Mauer's a Hall of Famer?
Tough. You got to start comparing him to other catchers who are in the Hall of Fame, which is also almost impossible to do because like you can't really compare like Yogi Berra's numbers to somebody who played in this era and things like that. But for a time, man, he was the best. He wasn't just the best hitter; he was the best catcher, and that's saying a lot. But
yeah. Three batting titles, dude. 3 batting titles, 3 gold
he was
gloves,
everything.
4 silver sluggers, 4 all-star games, and an MVP.
I would like to see him get
career
in.
306 hitter and a 55.2 WAR, which ranks 7th amongst catchers all time.
Let's put
every
him in.
other catcher in the top 10s in the Hall of Fame.
You sold. I'm in. You sold me on him.
We'll see.
Really fun.
We have the same career home runs, I think, 130.
Really?
In Mauer. Yeah.
You know, and you were both real good gap to bat. You guys kind of hit very similarly in a lot of ways.
Yeah, no, we did, yeah.
High average, gap to gap, some pop in the alleys.
Yeah, driving in runs.
Yeah.
Let's go.
All right, bro. Well, that was a good one.
Brother. Have a great rest of the day, Chinchy.
You too, bud.
I'll see you tomorrow. We're getting the Lambuski on tomorrow.
Yes,
Talk football.
finally. Yes, can't wait.
Finally,
That's going to be fun.
Finally.
All right, bro.
Okay.
Love you.
Bro. Love you, man. Hey, congrats. Not congrats. Thank you to everybody. Congrats for listening to us.
Congrats for being fans of ours.
Congrats for being fans of ours. And just keep doing what you're doing.
There you
Keep
go.
tuning in. We love you guys.
Yep.
Thanks for coming along with the ride. See you, buddy.